Today I wanted to take a minute to talk about something that um, is very INFP of me because when we see injustice, it really, really bothers us a lot. And the thing that's bothering me lately, and I just feel like I have to talk about, is the not my problem attitude. And it's something that I've been seeing a lot of lately in the world, where people will pass by someone who is in a state of need and they feel nothing, so they do nothing to help that person. And they think that it's okay to be that way. But is it really okay to have a, well, that's not my problem attitude? Does that foster peace in the world? Does it help? Does it help us as individuals to get ahead? Because some people, when I've spoken to others about this, they say that it's okay to be that way because you have to focus on yourself or else no one else will. How will you get ahead in life if you don't put yourself first? And today I wanted to kind of dive into that subject and get to the root of it. Like, is it really true that if you don't put yourself first, you will not get ahead in life? Okay. I feel like the not my problem attitude is bad. And there are four basic reasons why. And I'm looking at my notes here because I wrote them, I have them in my phone. First of all, there's the me-centric attitude. A me-centric attitude, it's not good. Even though the world promotes, our society here in the Western world at least does promote that attitude, look at what it's caused. Look at what it's done to our society. When people put themselves first, it leads to greed. And yes, greed might, if I'm, let's say that I come from a background where I don't have very much money. So it's my goal to get as rich as I can. And I think to myself, in order to do that, I can't think about other people. I have to put my needs first. And my number one need is I need money. So I will do whatever it takes to get money. Some things I might do, I might sell drugs. And in selling drugs, I end up killing people. Or I might rob a bank. I end up hurting innocent employees of the bank. I end up taking money that doesn't belong to me, which messes up that particular business, which has an effect on the community, which in our community affects society as a whole. So my greed, my me-centric attitude is ruining not just my life, because I will probably end up in jail, but it's ruining the lives of the people who I've killed or shot or injured and of the businesses that I've affected. And even if someone with a me-centric attitude chooses not to pursue a life of crime in order to get money, but they pursue the business world, that attitude still affects the people around them. People who are greedy and self-centered are terrible to work with. They're absolutely terrible. They crush people emotionally in the workplace. They take advantage of people, often leading to getting innocent people fired or laid off because of the way they manipulate things, and they're not afraid to throw people under the bus. So people with a me-centric attitude, they hurt the people around them because they don't care about them. And when you hurt the people around you, you're hurting society. And at the end of the day, when a person puts their own materialistic pursuits first, they're going to feel a sense of emptiness because that's not a healthy way for a human being to live. the number one thing, in addition to physical needs, like, getting food and medicine and basic, like, oxygen, in addition to those physical needs that humans have, our primary need is love. We need loving relationships. But a person who puts themselves first does not know how to be in a loving relationship. So they're going to suffer because of that. A me-centric attitude is a terrible thing to have. And well, that's not my problem way of looking at life, it fosters that kind of attitude. So it's bad. Okay, second reason it's bad is that it subtly promotes classism and racism. The people who I've encountered who have that kind of attitude usually don't realize that they are prejudiced against people who are poorer than them and against people who are a different race. And I'm trying to think of a good example of that, but okay, that kind of attitude where a person says, I I only am going to look out for myself and the people who can help me. That usually means people within my class or people within my race. So they subtly draw lines between them and other members of society. Like if I'm a black person and I'm only looking out for myself, I might see a white person who's in need, and just because of the color of their skin, I might say, well, they don't need me, they have their own people. And so I go about my way and I only choose to focus on or help out people who are black. That's terrible. That that and if a person can't see how bad that is, then that's like an issue. That's pretty bad if you can't see that that's a way of breaking up society instead of bringing it together. And it's hard for me to even understand why people don't understand why the not my problem attitude isn't good. That's why I feel weird even talking about this, but it's just that, like, I've discussed this with people at my job and in my family, and they don't understand why having this kind of attitude is bad. And it just seems so obvious to me. Anyway, the third reason is it keeps the poor poor, it keeps the poor poor and the rich rich. Because same thing with class, how it promotes classism and racism. If I am only interested in helping the people who are like me, if I'm a rich person, I'm only going to help rich people. I'm not even going to look at poor people and think of ways that I can help them. So poor people just stay poor, and my rich friends keep getting richer because I keep feeding money into their businesses and their ideas. They're the only people who I invest in. And lastly, that kind of attitude, it keeps people of different backgrounds from connecting with each other, which is part of the human experience. We all come from different backgrounds, and to be able to see even though we come from different places, how we relate to each other, that experience of getting to know each other and bridging those gaps, it's part of what makes life an adventure, and it's part of what creates new experiences for humans. Because when we bring two different people together, they can create something together that enriches everyone around them. Like, for example, just look at food. When you have two chefs, like maybe a Korean chef and I don't know, a chef from Mexico come together and they sort of bring their food cultures together. That creates a brand new food culture in itself, like the Korean tacos. Like those are pretty popular, Korean taco trucks, and they're delicious. And that's just a small example of how it's a good idea to bring people of different backgrounds and different socioeconomic groups and cultures together instead of people having this, well, me first and my people first, and I only focus on people who are like me. It's just bad to do that. So that brings up the question of how to avoid the not my problem attitude. And there are 3 ways to do that. The first is to practice being kind. And that's a simple fix. To just in small ways do kind things for people who can do nothing in return for you. Like open a door for someone when you see that even if they're not, even if they're not struggling, and even if their hands aren't full, and even if it's a person who you wouldn't normally open the door for, open a door for them. Or when you're driving, let someone who wants to get in front of you, go ahead and let them get in front of you. Just be kind. Or if it's a good idea to stop and let someone out, go ahead and let them out. What harm is that going to do? Because honestly, this is a fact. I live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I can look at a vehicle and the driver and know whether or not they're going to let me out based on what they're driving and what their race and gender are. If it is a white man driving a big truck, he will not let me out. In fact, I can guarantee that he will speed up to ensure that I do not get in front of him. But usually, if it's an older woman, no matter what race she is, an older woman will stop and let me out. Also, if it's someone who is considered I hate the word minority, but someone who's considered a minority, like a brown person or an Asian person, and they're in a car that isn't expensive, they'll usually stop and let me out. That's just the way it works in Baton Rouge, and that's very sad. So, but if people just practiced kindness in everyday situations, that can do a lot to help stop that it's not my problem attitude. A second way is to learn about the lives of other people, especially of people who are different from us. Like maybe at work, okay, so I'm a black woman, and maybe I'm used to only talking to people who are my skin color and gender. Maybe I should change that. If there's a janitor at my job who is a different race from me and a different gender, maybe I can stop and have a chat with them. Just ask them, how was your weekend? What did you do this weekend? Find out a little bit more about the people around me. Because one thing I notice at work is, first of all, not always, but usually, and again, this is probably just a Baton Rouge Southern thing, a lot of like white men at work, they don't speak to me other than saying hello. Not a, well, yeah, generally speaking, especially like younger white men. It's as if I don't exist because of the color of my skin and my gender. And when after a while, like if they're forced to be in my vicinity, then after a while they will start talking to me. But usually they'll only talk about themselves. So they don't really ask questions about my background because it doesn't matter to them. So a way to change that would be to, instead of just talking about oneself, get to know other people. ask them questions about the way they grew up, about their interests and hobbies. It's just a matter of us all being a little bit less me centric, of acting like we're not the center of the universe, because I'm not the center of the universe. And realizing that is not only does it take some of the burden off of yourself of being so driven and focused on getting what you want, but it also enriches your world. You learn more about the people around you. You see how we relate to each other, and that can give you ideas for business ideas, ideas on how to enrich your own community, your own life. It just makes life so much more enjoyable when we stop isolating ourselves and putting ourselves first. Put other people first for a change, and it will have a positive impact on your life. I promise you that. Okay, the third suggestion on how to get out of that not my problem attitude. This is kind of a weird one, but it's important. Make an effort to identify and then work on personal flaws. The reason this is important is because it promotes empathy. Sometimes it's hard for us to have empathy for other people because we don't relate to those people. For example, if I see, I'm trying to think, okay, so I'm a black woman. Let's see that I see one of those kind of rude white men at work, struggling with, let's say he tripped and fell. One of these guys trips and falls in front of me. Because of the way a lot of guys like that have treated me, I might not feel empathy for him. I might even laugh to myself when I see him trip and fall. That's bad. That is very wrong with me. I should have more empathy for a fellow human being. What can help me to develop that is to first of all understand who I am other than being a black woman from a low income family. Who am I really? And to know that, I have to take an honest look at myself. I have to know what I'm good at, what's positive about me. And I also need to know, what are my bad qualities? What can I work on to be a better person? Maybe I'm a little bit self-centered. Maybe I am a little bit arrogant. And it's going to hurt when I start to really examine what's wrong about me. That's going to hurt my ego and my self-esteem. But what it will do is it will help me to relate to that white guy who is also a little bit arrogant. And I start to realize I have the exact same problem that he does. And you know why we have that same problem? Because we're both humans, and most human beings struggle with the same problems. So I stop looking at him as an enemy or as someone who is different, and I start realizing that we are the same. And when the next time he trips and falls, I feel a little bit of oh, I did that the other day. And I might ask him, are you okay? You see, that's how empathy works. It starts with us realizing what is wrong with ourselves, seeing that in other people, and using that to connect or relate to them. And yeah, it means we have to be vulnerable, and it takes courage to be vulnerable. It takes more courage to look out for the people around us, to develop feelings for the people around us, than it does to isolate ourselves and say, that's not my problem. So if anybody chooses to watch this, I don't know. If anyone does, I would encourage you to please try looking out for the people around you, because that's the only way that this society, which is pretty deplorable right now, is going to get any better if we really start to care about other people. If you see a woman being harassed, ask her if she's okay. Step in. If you see someone who is crying for some reason, don't just walk by. Don't keep walking. If you're afraid to talk to them, I understand. People might be a little weird. Just hand them a tissue and say it's going to be okay and keep walking. Or if you're a little braver, stop and ask them if they're okay. We need to care about each other more. Okay, so that was my rant for the day. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day.